you should see her only on the weekends, and I should have 5 days. But I, of course, refused because.
Was she right about that? Were you not dropping her off on time, or?
To a certain extent. So yes, when I would I would try to drop her off, then she would start playing games and start crying. No, I want to play a little bit more. I want to go to this. I want to get an ice cream first, then I'll go to preschool. Or I want to spend some time in the park, then I'll go to preschool.
And who was paying for preschool?
Well, for the preschool, we were paying half and half. So I was paying 50%, and my ex-wife was also paying 50%.
So here he was questioning why my wife wanted more custody than the court had granted, and it went in a direction where it demonstrated that I cared so much for our child that I would not go against her wishes if possible. So if she wanted to go to a park and play for a little while, then I will give in. Being a father, I have a soft heart for my child, and I just could not see her crying when I was trying to drop her off to her preschool. So this is where this was going, but then Stefan was not interested in this. He cut this off, and he went over to the finance question, like who's funding this school or preschool rather.
How much was the preschool?
It was $1,500 a month.
Right. Okay. Right. And did your daughter like the preschool?
No, she did not.
Why did you? Why didn't your wife just try and stay home with her?
Because she wanted to work. She liked the income. And
well, she liked the income more than she liked her daughter, right?
I would say yes.
No, empirically. Yeah, empirically, if you're taking money and dumping your kid in preschool or daycare or kindergarten or whatever it is, then clearly you prefer the money to time with your daughter.
Yeah, but I don't think it's only that. It's also that there also is peer pressure on mothers to work and be recognized as women who are pro-rented. So, especially in California.
So peer pressure is an excuse.
Yes.
So women fully accept that peer pressure is a good reason to do terrible things. All right. That's interesting. I wonder how when your daughter gets older and she starts succumbing to peer pressure, what your ex-wife is going to say.
They won't admit to that because there are a bunch of other factors also, like, they want to be independent women, they want to be recognized for their work and stuff like that. All the women who are in national politics, for example, they exhort women to be independent and make career out of themselves, as all the men are.
No, I get that, but so, women say to men, like a lot of feminists will say to men, even though women believe in this magical patriarchy, that men have to resist it and men have to not do what society says, and you've got to be more sensitive. So the idea that women would use peer pressure as an excuse when they basically have been opposing it through feminism for the past 100 years or so just seems kind of funny. No, peer pressure is never an excuse for a man, but it's a perfect excuse for a woman. Peer pressure is never an excuse for conforming to an imaginary patriarchy, but it's always a perfect excuse for actually not spending time raising your own child. All right, okay, so that's my little rant there. So, Sanjay, when did you last work?
I worked last week, so I was working until last week.
You've been working full-time and you just lost your job last week or quit last week?
I lost my job last week.
Wow. And that's the job that you had throughout the time period?
No, I have had many jobs. This is the job which I started in August, so it's been.
But how many jobs have you had, roughly, since you came to? I mean, I guess you're working on your resume. You have some idea of this, right?
Yeah,
so since you came to America, how many jobs have you had? Or let's just say, take out the longest job that you have, and then how many jobs have you had?
The longest job I have had is about 3 years and 9 months.
Yeah.
And the total number of jobs I've had is around 10.
10 jobs?
10 jobs. And last 3 years alone, I have had 4 jobs.
But doesn't that make you a terrible worker? Simply because, I mean, I've run an IT department and a software coding department. Doesn't it take quite a while to get up to speed and to learn the coding practices and to understand the existing code base and to know what needs to be done? I mean, aren't you just getting up to speed before the job goes bye-bye?
Maybe in some circumstances, but not always. So, for example, if you're an accomplished Java engineer, you can start contributing to the code base within 2 to 3 days. After all, the practices of software development are not very different across different organizations. So there is going to be a source code repository.
I don't know. I mean, I get all of that, Sanjay, but I'm just telling you, I never would have let a coder contribute to the code base of the software that I had developed, which was being sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I would never have let a coder, after a couple of days, contribute to the working code base of the program.
Yes, it does take, I would say, to be, I mean, in my experience, and other people's experience can be different. My experience, it does take 2 to 3 weeks before an engineer, even though an experienced engineer,
so over what time frame, over what number of years have you had 10 jobs?
Around 12 years.
12 years, okay, so,
yeah.
And does that include the 3 years and 9 months job?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay, so if we take that out, you've had 9 or 10 jobs over 8 years or 9 years, right?
Oh, yes.
And is it true that you stay at the places for about a year or so, or some longer and some shorter?
Mostly shorter. So, like, my last job was about 2 months. Before that, my job was about 6 to 7 months.
2 months?
And another one before that. The one which...
Wait, was it supposed to be 2 months, or was it supposed to be longer?
It was supposed to be 6 months, and it was supposed to extend depending on the project. But I lost it because I've been going through a lot of difficulty, and in the last 3 years, it has been very, very difficult to work because I'm also covertly harassed at workplace.
I'm sorry, just say that last bit again.
Because I also am covertly harassed at workplace, so it's very,
this
very
covert
difficult
harassment
to
also
even
occurs at the workplace. What sort of behavior did your manager or managers see at your previous job that caused them to let you go? Like, what did you do you think, that may have been confusing to them?
The behavior, not behavior, but that I was not appearing to be interested, and I was not contributing as much as I had been contributing when I started, which was only a month and a half before that. And also they did not say that I'm being fired because because they are having issues with me specifically, but they told me that they are not able to afford the cost.
Well, certainly if you weren't being that productive, then they wouldn't be able to afford the cost, right?
Exactly.
Right. But do you think that they may have noticed any unusual behavior on your part related to the gang stalking?
No.
Okay. All right.
I was not told of any such behavior, but they might have noticed. What happens when I'm covertly harassed is that when sit down in a place, then because of these energy devices which interfere with the breathing apparatus and which interfere with the heart mechanism, then I start feeling uncomfortable, and it becomes difficult to be able to concentrate and work, and so I have to keep moving around, and that is an odd behavior, and I try to do it in a way that it does not become obvious that I am moving around all the time, but it might have been noticed. And I was never told about that, but it could be a reason, although I don't think so. So what Stefan ignored is that I had mentioned that when I had started, I had done pretty well. So the first few weeks I was doing really well, and then when the intensity of the harassment increased and the frequency increased, because it takes some time for these harassment agencies to have a setup in the workplace where I'm working to be able to accomplish harassment more constantly and all the time. So it takes a few days to a few weeks for them to do that, and after a few weeks it became very difficult for me to sit anywhere and work for more than 5 minutes, and even in meetings with other people I experienced this